Hello everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. The place where I overshare just enough to be relatable, but not enough to have my GP ringing me personally. So this week's episode is brought to you by 3 things. 1. Hormones. 2. A hospital appointment I've been waiting months for. And 3. My brain, which frankly should come with an off switch and a manufacturer's warning label. Now I won't go into too much detail, because 1. You don't need the full medical saga, and 2. I've already traumatised myself enough thinking about it. And yes, it is that time of the month, and it's absolutely kicking my arse this week. And if you're a male listening to this, I do apologise, but it is natural. And to really add a cherry on top, I've got a hospital appointment this Saturday, which brings me on to this week's topic, the build-up, and why our brains decide to ruin our week early. You know when you've got something coming up, and instead of dealing with it on the day like a normal, emotionally regulated adult, your brain goes, what if we start to panic now? Because that is exactly what mine has done. I've had every possible outcome play out in my head, including several that are medically impossible, but still emotionally convincing at 2 a.m. And the most ridiculous part is, we do this knowing full well we can't control the outcome, because logically, you know, the appointment will still happen whether you panic or not. The results will still be the same whether you spiral or stay calm. You are, in fact, not a time traveller who can alter events through anxiety alone. And yet, we panic anyway. So why do we panic before things even happen? Let's get a bit factual for a minute, because it actually helps me feel less ridiculous about it. Overthinking and anticipatory anxiety, that's the official term, is your brain trying to protect you. When something uncertain is coming up, like a hospital appointment, your amygdala, the fear centre of the brain, flags it as a potential threat. It doesn't know the difference between a lion chasing you or a consultant reading your notes in a softly lit NHS office. For your brain, uncertainty equals danger. So what does it do? It tries to prepare you by imagining every possible outcome. The theory is, if I think through every scenario, I'll be ready. But in reality, you just end up exhausted, stressed, and emotionally worn out before the things even happened. Studies show that chronic overthinking can increase your cholesterol, stress hormone, disturb sleep, affect concentration, and make physical symptoms feel worse, and heighten pain perception, which is extra fun when your hormones are already in the mix. So if I felt more emotional, more tired, more panicky this week, it's not me being dramatic, it's biology, hormones, and stress, all having a group meeting without my consent. Now let's talk about coping mechanisms, because mine, this week, domestic, violently domesticated. I've been panic cleaning like my life depends on it. I don't know what it is, but when I'm anxious, I suddenly believe if the house is spotless, my mental health state will follow. It never does, but that hasn't stopped me hoovering the living room so aggressively I'm fairly certain I've nearly worn a hole in the carpet. If anxiety burned calories, I'd have abs by now, purely from vacuuming. Candles have also been lit, many candles, because apparently my brain thinks if the house smells like a spa, we cannot possibly be stressed. Which is a lie. You can absolutely be panicking while surrounded by lavender and vanilla. You just smell nicer while doing it. And I also want to take a moment to publicly acknowledge my wife, because I genuinely don't know how she's put up with me this week. I've been cleaning things that weren't dirty, rearranging cupboards at midnight, hoovering with the intensity of someone training for the Olympics, lighting candles like we're preparing for a power cut that never comes. And she's just watched it unfold like, right, we're spiralling. Okay, being in a lesbian marriage means there's always one of you holding the emotional support tea while the other one loses the plot. And this week, she has absolutely drawn the short straw. So if you're listening, thank you for tolerating the chaos, the hormone monster, the great carpet destruction tour of 2026, starring me and my anxiety. Jokes aside, overthinking and panicking genuinely do affect day-to-day life more than people realise. It's not just worrying a bit, it shows up as avoidance, ignoring appointments until they're unavoidable, physical tension, tight shoulders, headaches, snapping at people you love, unintentionally, relentlessness, hence the cleaning marathons, sleep disruption, because your brain loves a 3 a.m. catastrophic rehearsal. So basically, you're living in the future instead of the present. Mentally, you're already in the hospital room, while physically, you're just trying to make a cup of tea. And honestly, it's exhausting. I think for me, and probably a lot of other people, the real root of the panic is control, or more accurately, the lack of it. You can prepare, you can attend, you can ask questions, but you cannot control what they say. And that gap between action and outcome is where overthinking breeds. So we try to fill the gap with thoughts, endless thoughts, unhelpful thoughts, thoughts that achieve absolutely nothing except raising our blood pressure. What I have to keep reminding myself, and maybe this will help someone else, is that the appointment exists to help, not harm. Avoiding it doesn't cancel it. Panic doesn't change the results. And future me will be glad I went, even if present me wants to fake my own disappearance. Also, statistically, another factual bit, most medical appointments result in reassurance, monitoring, or manageable treatment plans rather than worst case scenarios. Our brains just aren't wired to assume that first. They go straight to doom. Very efficient, not very helpful. As this episode is released a week after my appointment, I did go, and now have a plan of action, which, if I'm honest, I'm terrified about. So that's where I'm at this week. Hormonal, anxious, overthinking everything, living in a house that smells permanently of candles, married to a saint, and now preparing mentally, emotionally, and apparently domestically for what comes next after Saturday's appointment. Did I still panic the morning of? Almost certainly. Did I go? Yes, because avoidance only makes anxiety bigger, and also because I've waited months, so it would have been a bit of a waste of NHS resources at that point. So that's it for this week's episode. Thank you so much for listening. Genuinely, I mean it more than you think. If you enjoyed it, make sure you follow, subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next, especially as you'll get to find out how my next hospital appointment went, if you're interested, or just nosy. I respect both. See you in the next one.